Hi, and welcome to the Quilting Life podcast. I'm Chelsi Stratton from Chelsi Stratton Designs.
And I'm Sherri McConnell from A Quilting Life.
And this podcast episode, number 59, is airing today, June 27th. And we are excited to be here. We are halfway through the year.
Yes, we are. And yeah, it'll be July is right around, I think Friday this week is July 1st. And next Monday is July 4th.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Crazy.
So I think that we will just get right into it because Mom has our quilts for today. So I'm going to let you get started on that.
Okay. Yes, on the wall I have Waterfront. It's a 68 by 68 fat quarter quilt made with our Walkabout fabrics. And I just have always loved this quilt. With that collection, we had, kind of the taupe was really new, and I used that for part of the sashing, and the blues in this collection, I just love them. I love the border, I love the binding, I love the block design, everything about it. So one of my favorites for sure. And I love the stripe that is on the bias. I had to cut it on the bias for the binding. Yeah. And then on the table, this is the most recent finish I can share with you. I finished some things after this, but this is my sampler spray quilt. And I worked on this quilt for about a year, and I did the sew along with Susan Aki. She's Yard Girls 60, is that on Instagram? Yeah. And it's her book with Martingale. There were 106 different 6-inch blocks, I believe. And I think I made 103 of them, and you put 100 in on your quilt top. And so I used a whole bunch of our different collections. I kind of used when I started, I feel like I had Happy Days and Seashore Drive, and then I finished with Emma. But then there are older collections that I've used in this quilt too. Just really, really love it. Marion Bott quilted it. She actually quilted the one on the wall too. And the sashing, this is kind of a different little sashing way that Susan has in her book. And so I just followed the book and I love it. And
that's very interesting.
Really interesting how you sash it. And there's actually sashing in between each 4 blocks, and then the blocks are sashed. And
it is so cool.
It was really fun. And before I put it together, I put all my blocks in stacks by color, whatever the main color in the block was, whether it was teal or citrine or red or green. And then when I started putting them in groups of 4, I tried to make sure that I had 4 different colors in each group of 4.
Yeah.
So it was just a really fun quilt. And then the yellow, I had some extra yellow because I accidentally got sent a little bit extra of this one. And so I thought, oh, perfect. So the backing is actually this yellow sashing.
Yeah, that's a great use for it.
Yeah, and the binding and the sashing in it. It's just a really happy quilt, and it's a really nice large size. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done anything different. So when I first saw this, I actually took some pictures for Mom.
Yes.
And I love that the yellow kind of brings it to life and still ties everything together. Love seeing all of our collections mixed in. They really do go together if you have older collections of ours.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you noticed, Mom, but I knew I was at the house and I knew I had to go take a picture of the quilt next to your yellow armoire.
It looks beautiful.
And you'll probably see that on the blog, but.
Yes. No, and I was so excited because when you took those pictures, that was when we were helping Sean move, and
it was a surprise.
I was so excited because I knew I needed to get pictures of this for my blog and my Instagram, and it was so nice that you just took the pictures for me. So thank you.
Anything for you, Mom.
So thank you. Let's see. So Billy has something he's going to share. Actually, this came in an email to me. And we've had a little bit of conversation lately about Chelsi's To the Moon and Back quilt. And so Billy's going to tell about that.
Yeah. So right now we'll pop the picture up on the screen. And I forgot to show you this, Chelsi. You want to just come over here real quick? And
yes,
look? Right.
I do want to come over.
Come on over while I'm talking. And this was sent in from a listener. And as you can see here, it's your To the Moon and Back quilt.
And I believe she's from Australia, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And then is that the reverse side, I'm guessing, where she put her grandson or
Yeah.
her name on it? Okay, well, let me read what she said. She said, "Hi, Sherri. I would like to say I love listening to you and Chelsi on YouTube. I don't get to watch you live. I live in a small town in Australia. We have a small group that meets up once a month. I would like to show you the quilt that I made in 2020 with Chelsi's pattern. Thanks for all you do." So this was prior to you even mentioning it recently on the
Right.
podcast. So
Yeah.
she probably heard that and
that's
said,
when
"Hey,
she sent it in.
I made that in 2020." So
Right.
I don't know if that was for grandson or son, but she said she had made that in 2020. So there's another one, Chelsi.
Yeah, it was so fun to get that email. I had to send it to Billy and make sure we shared it here.
See, so much love. So much love for the To the Moon. That is awesome. Thank you so much. That is wonderful. And I just love that the back. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and put a huge name, like
Yes.
whoever you're giving it to.
Right.
Yeah.
Such a fun
And
idea.
make it personalized.
You'll know whose quilt that is when it's...
Yes.
Oh
If I had a quilt with my name on it
goodness.
that big,
Yeah.
I'd be like, yeah, that's my quilt.
That's my quilt,
I
guys.
actually have patterns for letters that are that big.
yeah?
Maybe not that big, but a little bit smaller that Moda did an alphabet thing before. So I could always do that if anybody wanted it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And we will be hearing more about the To the Moon quilt
Yes.
soon. Also,
Yes. Because
something new and fun coming.
Right. We are going to be sharing at the end of July, I think, on the podcast. We'll be sharing quilts and
Yeah, with the new collection.
right.
And there may or may not be something fun coming with the To the Moon
So
and
it
Back.
won't be the next episode that you can share.
No.
It'll be the second episode in July.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah.
But you'll be able to share the fabric before in the middle of July or something? Is that right?
So we might have a video pop up before that second podcast in July with
Yeah.
Chelsi and I in the fabric. You'll have to watch for that. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So first I wanted to share, I did a video tour of my sewing room recently was it in May? Yes.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, in May.
Well, and I guess you should probably preface by this is sort of like a new a new segment we're going to do in the podcast.
Oh, yes.
Overall,
yes.
right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because sometimes I get, based on what we talk about, I get really great emails with tips and advice. And so we just thought it would be a great new section. So if you have tips based on something we talk on, or even not based on something we talk on, just something new that you find really interesting and helpful, just go ahead and email them in, and we're going to just have a little section in our podcast.
That's awesome. I like that.
So we actually have 3 today. One's based on my new ironing station that I talked about, and one is, well, let's do that one first.
Yeah.
So I did the tour of my sewing room, and I shared my new ironing station that I had made, and I talked about in that video about how I have the wool pressing mat on top of it, but I was a little bit worried about the wood, and talked about, I'm going to have to come up with something because I don't want the wood to get damaged. And I got several emails, and several viewers wrote with suggestions. One of them even said she had a similar situation and the wood had been badly damaged. But a couple of people said, get one of those flannel-backed vinyl tablecloths and cut it to fit down in the bottom with the flannel side against the wood and the vinyl up top, and that vinyl will prevent the moisture from the wool mat from going down.
And then you put the mat on top of that. I see.
Yes. So I have one. It's downstairs. I'm going to cut
do
it
that
up
today.
and put it in there. Yeah. So I'm super
Yeah.
excited about that. And somebody else did almost the exact same thing. They put an extra thin piece of plywood that they wrapped in batting and put that underneath, and then put the tablecloth.
That's smart.
So yeah, so I'm super excited. Thank you so much for those suggestions. And then this next one came in for Chelsi, And because you talked about your machine losing the pedal when you took it to get serviced.
Yes.
Yeah, so she said that she glues or tapes a return address sticker on the machine foot pedal, power cords, and any accessory you're taking to a retreat or when your machine is going into the shop for a cleaning. And what a great idea.
That is genius.
Yes, just a simple little address sticker on the bottom with your name.
Yeah. Hey, thank you so much. And that was from Donna. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I love that.
She says she puts address stickers on all of her daughter's machines.
Oh, I just saw
See that? Huh.
Yeah. So
just slap it on there.
Yeah, really, really love that tip. I'm going to do that too.
Hey, that is genius though, because if you do, even a retreat, you could easily lose something.
Right. Somebody might have the same machine that you have. And so really great. And then this other one is a motivation tip, and I love this because I do this too. She says, when I find that I'm not being motivated to finish a quilt or project, I do a sewing small project that could be completed, and it gets me motivated. And that's from Marcella. And I love that because, sometimes you just need to set that project aside, get a quick finish, quick win.
We were just talking about quick wins.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was left on the podcast 2 episodes ago when we were talking about being motivated to sew.
Cool.
So I found a couple of those on there.
Yeah. And the other one then, that also came from that same. She said, this is GL. She said, what keeps me motivating is watching tutorials here on YouTube and hoping that I can make the project. Once I start, I go, go, go. Of course, if I feel I need a break, I will take one. And I love that too.
I love that.
So
yeah, you can use YouTube just to find something new or fresh that you might want to try out, and that there are full free YouTube tutorials out there from multiple different people. So
yeah,
it's a good idea.
I feel like, we used to browse through magazines for ideas, and now we have digital ways to browse as well. So YouTube and blogs. And
so I think this segment can really piggyback off of when we do listener questions episodes, because people send you guys questions, you have answers, but you don't have all the answers. And that's the great thing about the community is that other people may have had experience with something that you haven't, or have more experience with something. So definitely, if you guys have tips, that's something I'm going to start working on trying to compile is listener tips or advice, things that you hear throughout the podcast. And when we feel we have enough to share, we can throw that segment into a podcast and share some of you guys' tips and advice with everybody.
Yeah, I like it.
I really like it because it really helps us really show that we're kind of a community and we're helping each other, which is what I think we want.
Yeah.
It's people engaging and us engaging with them. So.
Right. Okay. So topic today, if you listened to our last podcast episode, I actually got today's topic from the same reading book podcast that I got the topic that we shared about summer sewing.
What
remember?
is this book podcast?
Well, so it was really a random podcast that I don't usually listen to too. So, but anyway, they were talking about when you should quit reading a book, right? You're reading a book and you're just not getting into it and it's really hard to read it. And so they had this little discussion about, when is the opportunity cost, even if you've already invested several hours, should you just quit and start a new book? And so
I'm interested to hear the advice on this. Because
so my thoughts went to when should you shelve a project? When do you take a quilting project and not finish it? Even though you've already invested, sometimes there's quite a bit of opportunity costs. Fabric is expensive.
Yeah.
Patterns are expensive. Maybe you've even already cut out the entire project, or, there could be a lot of opportunity costs here that you're going to have to, just set aside and so Billy, he wrote, discuss when you reach a point where you need to take a break with a certain project. Is there a certain amount of time you feel you should give yourself before returning to it? Do you have any stories you feel that, on this topic? does stopping and taking a break ever lead to an overall better finished product when you finally come back to it? Just so many different ways we can go on this question.
Oh, I got stories for you.
Okay.
And this is probably why I can count on one hand my whips or whatever, because I don't have very many. I probably have 3. But my story I'm going to start out with is a book. There was a book recommended by an author I absolutely fell in love with. Her book that I read as a new author, 5 plus stars. Really enjoyed it. And she did a review for this book that was coming out for a different author. And I thought, if this girl gave this review for this book, I'm buying this book. And I finally bought the book. I did not enjoy the book. I knew right at the beginning I wasn't going to enjoy the book. And I was so confused because I thought, well, it must get better because this other author. And I kind of realized, I think, and maybe she did really, really enjoy the book, but she was supporting an author who was a friend as well. Right. And so she gave a really, really good review for this book. And I didn't think and overall, the rating for the book, like overall for Goodreads and all that, wasn't that great. But I trusted that this author knew what she was talking about.
So you read the entire book?
I read the entire book.
Okay.
I finished it. And I was really bummed. I did not think it was great at all. And I've read like 15 books already in the past 3 months. I'm going crazy. But
yeah. So translate that to sewing.
That's what yeah. So I obviously have to finish things but it does. And what are you willing to give up? The time, and I can tell you 100% the 3 projects I haven't finished is because they were kind of hyped. And, there was a lot of talk about these projects and I actually didn't love them. And I think that's the thing is I want to read or sew things that I love. Right. And I didn't really love these ones. And they're still sitting in my shelf.
Yeah.
And so I'm really meticulous. I'm careful about what projects I choose.
Yeah. So here's a suggestion, and this came from the book podcast, but it applies to sewing. When you quit a project, make some notes. Why did you stop? Was it too difficult? Was it too easy? Was it too boring? Was it that you didn't like how the fabric worked with the pattern that you chose?
Did they tell you the plot twist in the first 3 pages of the book? Yeah. Why did you do that?
Take some notes. And, just a little shameless plug for my Quilting Life planner, but on those project pages, that's your space to do that. Make notes about what you don't
That is so interesting because I was telling Mason, I'm like, this is what they did wrong. Why would you do that? Why would you give away the whole twist in the first 3 pages? I don't understand. But you're right. We should be making notes about things we don't or do like. Mm-hmm. And I think actually it probably would have been healthier for me to shelve a quilt project or shelve the book, whatever you need to shelve. But I just have this part of me that is like, you started this, you have to finish it. And that's what I did, suffering the whole time. But those quilts, these 3 projects that I still have, and they're all perfectly placed in a bin and ready to go if I ever want to go back to them. But I just there's also that loss, I don't have a desire to go back to them.
Okay, so you don't think you'll go back to any of those, and why is it? Is it the fabric or the pattern, or?
I think 2 of them, it's the pattern. One of them I know would be gorgeous. I think it was just a lot of work for me. And at the time, and this isn't even important. You should finish a quilt at whatever skill level you are. But I really wasn't I was still making a lot of mistakes then. And now I'm like, oh, do I even want to go back?
So it was too advanced for you at the time?
It was totally too advanced for me.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I wanted to make it so badly. And it was. hands down too advanced for me. Now I could probably go back and it would feel a lot easier, but I was trying new techniques, and that is interesting that you brought that up because it was.
So about how long ago was it that have they been shelved for years, months?
Oh, years.
Okay.
How long have we been doing fabric?
I mean, 2015,
yeah,
right?
2016, I would say I started
Is when
the
you
quilt.
started that?
Is when I started the quilt.
Yeah.
And you haven't okay. And
Years
so
and
here's
years and years
here.
ago.
This is sort of like the free quilting therapy session.
I'm so glad. I love therapy.
Okay. So do you have any desire to go back and bring it now that you'd be more confident in your skills to maybe finish it? Or do you have such a negative connotation with that quilt that you don't want anything to do with it?
I would like to just restart the whole thing because I would change some of the colors. I think that's also it. I want the background for that one to maybe be a Bella 200. Now we're really getting into this.
Wow.
You guys are getting the details. We were using then an ivory.
Bella ivory.
And actually it would look really cute with the ivory, but this is truly a therapy session for me. There's so many different things, but I also cannot fathom because there is also another option. You can donate projects and people would probably love to finish them. I cannot donate that one because I feel like I invested so much time in it already.
Okay, but if you never bring it back up, then why couldn't you donate it? Would be my question.
It would be difficult for me to donate it.
But you're not going to finish
But
it.
why do you always make me make decisions?
Can you just take the blocks that you did finish and make a little doll quilt for somebody? Or
a doll quilt?
Just,
You want to know what I could do? I
table
could
topper?
do a table topper, actually, and that would look lovely.
Yeah.
And it would be a quick finish.
Yeah.
I like this idea. Maybe we should do a whole blog post about this.
So you
guys trigger me so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, or a table runner, table topper, just a little quilt to fold up in a basket or sit on a shelf.
Now I'm determined to prove you guys wrong and finish this whole project.
Oh boy.
There is a fire burning within me.
Well, there you go.
I have one project and it's kind of the same thing. It was in a magazine. It was designed by a friend. I loved it. I made some blocks. Then I got busy and made, with other things. Well, I just don't love those fabrics anymore. And they are really dark browns. And I am never going to make, and they're not, I'll sometimes sew with browns if it's for a fall quilt or, I'm using that flower pot collection right now by Vanessa. I just made a table runner out of it.
Yes, I saw.
Yeah, and I want to make a fall quilt with it. And there are browns in there, but this collection was really brown, really dark, really back from a long time ago. I've had these blocks for more than 10 years, I would say. I am just never going to finish those. And I feel like, I probably should just donate those blocks.
Yeah.
And maybe somebody can use them.
Use them and finish it.
Yeah.
That is another interesting point because as time goes on, not only do trends change in fabrics, but you really do. As you grow, you're progressively going to probably change how you feel about different fabrics. And
Right.
Kimberly brought that up when we had her on the podcast.
Yeah.
She was like, fabrics that I used to sew with, I don't really sew with anymore.
Yeah.
Her taste has changed,
Yeah.
which is so normal
Right.
when you're a creative person.
Yeah. Well, for example, see that quilt right above the window over there?
Yeah, I've been staring at it a lot today.
So that
We'll pop a picture of it up.
Yeah, so that is 3 blocks of a quilt that was supposed to have 9 blocks. And
No way.
what I did was I realized when I was sorting through projects, I realized I'm never going to finish this whole thing. And
So you just made a little wall hanging.
I just made a little wall hanging and I had Val quilt it. And
It's so pretty.
it's so funny too because the binding is actually from one of our collections. And those fabrics are older.
It's the taupe
Yes, it's a taupe binding. And so I thought, wow, this is kind of really cool
from Harper's Garden.
that I bound it with something from our collection, this project that had been in my drawer for 8 years or something.
And you made use of it.
And I made use of it, and it's hanging on, and I love it.
This is the kind of hope I need, apparently.
But yeah, the opportunity cost thing, I wasn't willing to make 6 more blocks.
Yeah.
So even though it's really cute,
Yeah.
but it's not totally my style now, but it looks good here in my office.
Yeah, it looks really cute there in your office.
So
Do you have any other projects that have been shelved for a long time, Mom, that you're
I
not
think
sure?
Mom has more than me.
I do. Yeah. I actually have a 2 bins with some blocks and stuff that I feel like I could find a way to finish.
Billy,
Eventually.
2 bins. Why don't
Yeah.
you give her some therapy?
No. Okay, so no. By bins, I mean my Container Store Alpha cart on wheels.
Okay.
2 of those drawers. So
I was
not
just imagining
not
you
a
like,
lot. No,
here's
yeah.
my first
No.
bin.
not a big bin. Two small drawers from
Okay.
a Alpha Container Store rolling cart.
I was
Yes.
like, I'm sending you to therapy right now.
Yeah, no. Those bins are probably 12 inches by 4 inches deep by 18 inches long. So there aren't
But
a lot.
it's true though. At what
yeah.
point do you decide, okay, option 1, do I let this go? Do I donate it? Option 2, am I going to make use of it?
Right.
Or option 3,
Yeah.
we're just going to stare at it.
Right.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. So you could change it and adjust it like you did with the wall hanging over there. You could go back and complete the entire thing. You could
Right.
donate it, or
It's my pride.
I mean,
Yeah.
My pride will not let me.
I just think that option should be taken out, because what's the point of leaving something there knowing that you're not going to finish it?
I
So
can-
either adjust, donate, or complete. I think there's really only 3 options.
I cannot wait in 6 months
Mm-hmm.
when I am bringing these projects on the podcast and being like, well, guess what, guys?
Well.
It bugged me so bad. I finished all of them.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe that's what
We
will
should.
happen.
We should have a whole Whips podcast episode where we
Oh,
share.
yeah. Works. Yeah.
Look at me coming up with ideas.
Good idea. No, but I actually did donate one time to a friend's sewing group, and one of the ladies in that group, she actually took it and finished it, and I had the opportunity where I went back to that sewing group and she said, "Look,
And
I
she shared
finished.
it.
Yes, I finished that project that you donated. I'm so glad. I love it." And that was really rewarding. That's not always going to happen if you donate it and you don't know who gets it, but that was really fun that
Yeah.
somebody finished it. And
So would you say now that you are more selective as a quilter than you were 5 years ago? Like, be honest.
oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I feel like
Yeah.
now, especially designing with our own fabrics, I'm very okay. Well, these are like specific projects that have to be done.
Right.
But
That's okay. And we talked about my table runner issue last podcast, but that's why I make so many table runners, because sometimes if I think I want to make a quilt with somebody else's collection and I'm not sure, I will make a table runner first and I will wait a little bit. And if I don't love that table runner after a couple months, I'm not going to make a big quilt with it.
Yeah.
And because usually I'll buy, if I really like a collection, I'll buy a fat quarter bundle and then I'll buy a chart pack and
Yeah.
I'll do the table runner and then I'll hang on to that fat quarter bundle. And if I really think I'm going to love it and I love that table runner, then I'll make the quilt. But if not, I'll sell the fat quarter bundle to
Yeah.
somebody that might love it. And
I feel like I'm far more confident in my fabric selection though. Like
for
even
sure.
somebody, we answered some questions for Lisa Alexander's fun book club for
Oh,
the Home for the
yes.
Holidays book.
Yeah.
And that was one of the questions was, when you were designing the quilts for the book, how did you know which fabric collections
Right.
would go? And we kind of got a multitude of fabric collections, but I just know now.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, oh, these prints will really show off with this pattern. Or
Right.
this collection, I'm in love with it. It has to be for this quilt. I think
Right.
that's also a thing. You grow as a quilter. You have a lot more confidence in yourself when
Yes.
picking fabrics for a project, I think.
Right.
And I think I am at that point. I think at first I was really unsure. I didn't really know what I liked.
Yeah.
And so I was sewing with people's fabrics that I was familiar with the designer, and I wasn't really branching out, which was fine because I was experimenting.
Right.
And now I'm just way more selective.
Yeah. No, I also found a quilt when I was sorting. It's completely done, but I never got it quilted. And it's a Christmas quilt.
Oh, I got that problem.
But what I did wrong with it, I don't want to pay to get it quilted because I made a bad choice on the sashing and it's too convoluted. There isn't enough contrast.
Oh.
And so I don't love it. And some of the blocks are beautiful. So then I've kept it because I've thought, well, I could take the whole thing apart and put different sashing in and I would probably love this quilt.
Yeah.
But then it's like, do I
So
have
much
time?
work.
That's so much
It's
work.
very time consuming.
Yes. So, in fact, last night I had to just take apart a block. I found 2 pieces that were turned the wrong way, and it took 30 minutes to make us.
You
So I don't
are
want.
telling me. I had to rip the seam ripper out yesterday, and
Really?
I was like talking to myself, Chelsea, why would you do this to yourself? Why would you do this? You know better than this. You should have checked. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm just sitting there speaking to myself. Nobody's in the room, like a crazy person.
Yeah.
But yeah, it
No,
takes
that was me
up so
when
much time.
I was putting on the outer border and found the mistake.
Yes. And then don't you feel like you're like, I'm done. I'm never quilting for the rest of the day. And then you go back in your room tomorrow and you're like, I love this place. It's so wonderful.
Yeah. But no, I really don't want to redo the set. So I'm thinking, okay, should I just donate this quilt and let somebody take it and quilt it? And
That's the heavy question, though, because you love the blocks and you
But I
spend
love
so
the-
much time
Right.
working on the blocks.
Right.
We want to talk about bins. I do have a
So-
full bin of like probably 12 quilts that have never been quilted because Billy, please, if Isabel ever decides to quilt, she can practice on all those quilts because
Oh, just like practice long arming?
yes,
on it?
because they need to be quilted and my piecing skills were just points are cut off everywhere. Like it is a wild mess.
Well, that's a good thing to have then, I guess, even if you guys get into that sometime.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know, you have practice. You
Yeah.
definitely want to practice
So-
before you
Yeah.
do one that you know you're going to be displaying.
Once they're quilted, they'll be totally fine.
Yeah.
Like,
and you
I'm
wash it and somebody will love it.
yeah,
and
I'm
it'd
so
be-
embarrassed by them though because it was like the beginning,
Yeah.
which is horrible. I just want to make a note. I should never be embarrassed of any quilting progress, so I take that back. But there is a little part of me, and Billy and I have talked about this before. You know, that's those beginning stages of quilting, and I have to appreciate that journey. So
Yeah. And honestly, I should probably just get that Christmas quilt, the one with the sashing that's too convoluted. I should just probably get it quilted and just donate it because
Yes.
somebody could use it.
yes,
So-
yeah, we shouldn't. Yeah, we
Yeah.
shouldn't be wasteful.
Right.
We should put them to good use.
Right.
People could use them. We could use them. Our
Yeah.
grandkids. Plenty of forts to be made. People.
Yes.
What about this one question? Is there ever a time where you get to a point, maybe it's a creative thing where you're like, I just need a break and I'll come back in a week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever. Have you ever done that? Is that even a thing? Or when you shelve something, are you like, I'm done?
Well, honestly, the quilt on the table is a really good example of that.
That's so true.
This was a 10-week sew-along. You were supposed to make, I think, 10 blocks a week for 10 weeks, and you'd have the 100 blocks. And I was kind of busy when I started, and I knew I wouldn't be able to do the 10 blocks a week. And so I was trying to do 4 or 5 blocks a week, but then I got even too busy for that. And these, I don't know, I feel like I had 30 or 40 blocks that sat in a box for 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
With this quilt along. And then I realized, you know what? I love those 30 or 40 blocks.
Yeah.
I want to finish this quilt. And I just started coming back to it and making and that's why there are such a wide variety of fabrics in this quilt too, because we had more fabric collections come out in the 6 months that whatever.
Which honestly benefited it in the end.
Right.
Because you did have more of a variety
Right.
of our fabric collections.
Yes.
I love that.
So-
you literally have the most recent one.
Yeah, Emma. I mean, Emma is in it because I took a year to finish what was supposed to be a 10-week quilt along.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes it's good to.
I mean, because if, again, comparing it to books or authors or even like a movie script, there's writers, they get writer's block.
Right.
And sometimes
Yeah.
they do shelve projects, whether it's a novel or a movie script, and they come back to it and finish it later. And that's why they say, like, I've been working on this script or this novel for 10 years. Well, they weren't working on it every day for 8 hours a day for 10 years.
Right.
There were times where they just had to stop because they didn't know where to go.
Right.
And they came back to it. And I know quilting's different because you have patterns, so you do know what the end product will look like. But when you're choosing fabrics, I guess, or if your skill sets aren't quite to where they need to be, if you jump into something too early, then you come back to them later and you can finish it,
Yeah. Really, really good point. So,
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to relate this to the fabric designing, though, is I've always said I can't just like design a fabric line. And I probably scare you so bad. I think sometimes, I don't know what your thought process is, but sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, don't worry. We'll be having a meeting soon about the new fabrics. And Mom's like, oh, okay. Hopefully it's not the day of the deadline.
Yeah.
But they always turn out wonderful.
They
and
do.
we always have
yeah.
great conversations about what is needed and what is not needed. And
Yeah, no, I never worry. I know that.
I love your trust in me.
I feel like creativity does hit you at different times. And sometimes and I do that sometimes too. I'll design 8 or 9 patterns and they'll just be sitting in a file waiting for fabrics because I just had a whole bunch of ideas that I was able to get down on paper or into the computer. And another time I might think, new quilt, I don't have any ideas right now. You know? So I feel like
and you know that about me, this time was a struggle for me.
Yeah.
I was like worried about, and now I love the quilts.
And they're great. I think,
they're great.
Yeah.
But I was so nervous. I couldn't come up with one. It's like my brain was not working. I just couldn't figure out what I wanted to design.
Yeah. This actually reminds me, one of my students when I was teaching English one time wrote a paper on procrastination and how it's actually really beneficial for creativity to procrastinate. And she had, documented all the articles and journal research and everything. It was really fascinating because, sometimes things just need to simmer in our brains.
Okay, this person is my new favorite person.
So, and yeah, I think you might know her. So
I probably do.
Actually. But it was from several years ago. But yes, really, really good research on the fact that procrastination can be a good thing.
I do my best work when I procrastinate.
Now,
I'm not going to tell my kids this. But.
Yeah, it's not saying, your mom tells you to empty the dishwasher, you should procrastinate that. It was all related to the creative process.
The creative process.
Yeah.
That makes sense for me, though.
So
that really does.
Yeah,
There's hope for us.
Just a thought.
There's hope for us procrastinators.
Yes.
Well, I think, debuting the new segment of listener tips or advice, I think this is probably the perfect topic to follow that up with because I imagine this is a good topic to get feedback on.
Right.
With so many different quilters out there who have gone through the same things that you guys have discussed today. And I imagine that there's some great advice out there that people have used to either get back and complete a project, or what they did to change it, like you mentioned, Mom. Right. I'm sure there's just a lot of advice. So I think this would be a great episode for everyone to leave comments on the YouTube channel or send emails about that. Maybe we could sort of revisit that with some of the comments that we get.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like great. Yes.
That sounds like a great idea.
That's an official call out for everyone.
Yeah. I love this topic today.
Really good topic.
Yeah.
So, I think that's it. Billy does have some reviews, right?
Yeah. It's been a while since
we've done. A long while, and I love hearing them.
Yeah.
Apple podcast reviews here. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4.
I was going to ask you, are some of them recent? Because I was listening to another podcast the other day, and he mentioned he had all of these reviews from months ago, but he was hoping that, to keep getting them if you have some things that you'd want to share positively about his podcast, because I guess they do look at how old your reviews are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you need to keep getting them.
Yeah.
To keep current. Yeah.
Yeah. We have a few new ones here.
Awesome.
Or more recent ones in the last month or two. This first one it's titled Amazing. This is a truly amazing podcast. I happened to stumble upon their YouTube channel. Never had quilted in my life and couldn't help but fall in love with the craft. They are so inspirational. You can't help but keep listening.
Wow,
Oh
that
my
is so nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Not even quilting
Not
before.
even quilting.
That's
That's
awesome.
wild.
Yes.
Okay, this
Thank
next
you.
one, favorite quilting podcast. I've been listening from the beginning, and the episodes keep getting better and better so far. The April 11th, 2022 episode has been my favorite. So interesting. I'd have to look up which one that is. I love to listen while I'm quilting. I quilt a lot, so keep the episodes coming.
Oh, thank you.
So
Thank
that's
you
someone
so much.
who listens to podcasts while she
I love
quilts.
that they've been with us the whole time, like
Yes.
the journey. We've grown a lot.
And here's one actually you guys can maybe answer, a little question you could answer real quick. I love this podcast. Sherri and Chelsi, when you listen to podcasts, what do you listen to? Billy, I'm sure there's some you'd recommend too, history maybe. Thanks for your contribution to our quilting community. Keep up the good work. So if you had to recommend one podcast, what would it be, Mom? We'll do a rapid fire.
That's
Put you on the
really,
spot.
really hard. I would say Best of Both Worlds with Laura Vanderkam and Sarah Hart Unger. They're two working moms, a little bit younger than me, but they talk about keeping it all together, time management, organization, family, book recommendation.
Ooh.
That's probably the one I would go to. A really, really close second would be Greg McEwen, Essentialist podcast.
Okay. So she cheated. She gave 2.
Sorry.
All right, Chelsi.
I'm going to be honest. I am only listening to music right now. Only listening to music.
I sort of knew, you're
I
not
won't-
as big of a
I'm
podcast
not a big
listener
podcaster.
as
Yeah.
Mom and I are.
Yeah.
But
I'll
well,
be honest.
yeah,
I
won't
that's
lie.
fine.
I could give you a few more if you want.
Well, you gave 2.
Okay.
Okay, you can give one more, Mom.
More dance parties in
I
my
like-
sewing room.
I like the Lazy Genius podcast. She's always got, and she's also quite a bit younger than me, but sometimes I just really like
It's
the way she
okay.
looks at things,
To listen to someone younger than
Well, yeah, no, and it's not because of the age.
I know.
I should
I was
say
teasing
stage
you.
of life. She has
Yes,
young
yes,
children.
yes. Yeah.
But I feel like some of her suggestions, if you have young children, still work if you have no children in your home.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Then they'll work.
Yeah.
I'm a podcast junkie. That's
Yes,
is.
he
and I
is.
mean, I listen to podcasts about podcasts. I listen about podcasts about the podcast industry and technology. But you're right. I do listen to history podcasts as well. That was what my degree was in. If I could recommend, there's a podcast called Revisionist History with Malcolm Gladwell, and you probably have heard Malcolm Gladwell. A lot of books. He's a best-selling author. That's a good one. It's seasonal, so it's not every single week, but he'll do like 10 episode seasons.
Yeah, I enjoy his books. I don't really always listen to his podcast, but
So that's a good one. It's a historical. Then there's one, he's called the godfather of podcasting by many people. His name is Dan Carlin, and it's called Hardcore History. His only come out maybe once or twice a year, but they're 6-hour episodes.
Oh, wow.
And they go very, very in depth in whatever topic he's talking about. And so if you're asking for history recommendations,
Yeah.
those are 2, but they're not as frequent as other type of podcasts. So
Wow.
anyway,
Awesome.
so thank you for that review though.
Yes.
And last one I'll share. I'm a new listener. I'm a new listener to this podcast, and I've listened to almost all the episodes now, and so excited about future episodes. And that was just the most recent, our most recent review. So
thank
you so much for tuning in.
Yes.
going in the backlog,
We are
they
glad
are all
you're here.
there. Hopefully that these episodes are evergreen content, meaning that you can listen to something 2 years ago and can find relevance in it.
Yeah,
for
that's what I
your
think
quilting
so.
life.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so our next podcast episode will be airing Monday, July 11th, and we won't see you till then. So happy 4th of July.
Yes. Wish everyone a safe and healthy 4th of July here in the United States. And thanks so much for stopping by.